Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight is November the 21st. It's a Saturday, and we are doing our very first episode of Nexus Nights. Goodbye, the Team Liquid Heroes of the Storm writing team. So here's the team. Hey guys, what's up?
Hey, Chris.
What's
Howdy.
up?
Hello.
Alright, so since this is our first episode, I just want to go around and get everyone to introduce themselves. And I thought it would be a little bit more interesting if instead of the usual, this is who I am, this is what I've done in the past, here's my resume. I think it'd be more fun if we just went around and said who our favorite heroes were and why. So let's just start with X-Daunt and go around the circle.
Well, I'm Daunt, resident tryhard. My favorite heroes would be, I like the melee assassins in general. I like Zeratul, I like Thrall, and I like Artanis. Even though Artanis isn't really an assassin, I still kind of think of him as one. He's more assassin-y than like a warrior. I guess I like those heroes because I like being up close and personal in the fights. I like mauling and bruising people as opposed to being a wimp, being in the back, hitting people from range.
Hey.
Oliver, talking about you.
I'm hyper aggressive. I just have ranged characters.
All right, Christine?
So I'm Christine Valia. My favorite heroes are pretty much the ones that are the absolute silliest at the time. When push comes to shove, Zagara is my main right now, but I will pull out a Gazlo. I will pull out a random Nazebo. Like, those heroes aren't necessarily ridiculous, but I basically pick the most ridiculous talents I can on them. I like having fun in the game, but my mains are definitely...
I said a puppy dies every time you pick Gazlo.
That would be miserable. I'd like to think my Gazlo picks save puppies. But yeah, when push comes to shove, Zagara and Leoric, I think, are probably my mains.
All right. I'm John. My favorite hero is Nova. I'm just kidding. Fuck Nova players. They can go to hell.
Get out of here.
Laying down the law. No, my favorite heroes are typically melee assassins. Illidan is my bae. It's my love for life. But I can't always play him because he shifts in and out of the meta. So I still play a lot of melee assassins and stuff like that, which is kind of difficult because sometimes me and X-Daunt have to compete for a place on the team. Valor.
So my favorite hero is definitely Jaina. I don't know why. I just love chasing people as Jaina.
I love how whenever we play, I'm always like, hey, are you okay over there? And you're like, yeah, I killed their team. It's fine.
Yeah, usually I'm like never with the team as Jaina. It's really strange, and I'm usually like fighting two people, and then John's always like, what's going on over there? And I'm like, oh, I'm dead, but three of them are too, so it's okay.
What's going on? No.
If not Jaina, then Kael'thas for Pyroblast. Just
Yeah,
that reason alone.
Yeah, we only allow manly ults in our games.
Totally.
Shiro?
My name is Shiro Usagi, or Shiro for short, and I usually play support characters. And my favorite support character...
Medic?
No, actually it's not Medic. It's either...
I'm gonna say Uther.
Yeah, it's either Uther or Rhaegar, but it has to depend how I feel. Like, I'm not gonna play, like, Uther when there's, like, Lost Vikings, because I don't want to, like, try to heal all three.
Whatever, you like being a puppy and just running around as Rhaegar.
Yes.
Well, apparently every time I pick Gazlo, a puppy dies, so Shiro.
That's rough. That's rough.
I like to heal.
Excellent.
Support and cleanse people who are being mosh pit.
Yeah, it doesn't work so well anymore, but we'll get to that. All right. So the topic of tonight's discussion, now that you've met us all, tonight's topic is going to be BlizzCon and kind of the state of the game at BlizzCon and how it's changed since the scaling changes in this past week. We're also going to talk a little bit about Cho'Gall, just a little bit. So first of all, at BlizzCon was like really important for us because it was the first major world tournament. It was the first premier world tournament. I think we had the Masters Gaming Arena from MSI. That was an international tournament, but it wasn't nearly as big as BlizzCon. And BlizzCon was also a good chance for us to like look back at Heroes of the Storm over the past year when it was almost a brand new game, and see how far we've come, and also look at some of the newer changes that were to come in the future. At BlizzCon, let's talk about BlizzCon. So, what did you guys think about how BlizzCon went in terms of the state of the game? Do you think it was balanced? Do you think we were in a good state then?
It looked really good to me overall. There weren't too many things that looked too out of place. I think there were some silly things being done with Sonya, I think, as everyone saw. But by and large, I was really happy with the hero pick variety. I was really happy with the variety of the team strategies being utilized. We saw a lot of different kinds of interesting compositions, some very melee compositions, some more standard poke compositions. We saw Cloud9's murky build or murky composition that was just fascinating.
I believe that's called murky bullshit is the proper term.
Trying to be polite, but yes, that's exactly what that was. Murky troll comp. I think the game's in a really, really good spot right now. One of the things that's readily apparent, and this is, again, comparing the game now versus how it was back during beta and especially during alpha, is that there's a lot of hero variety. There are a lot of different things that teams can do because there are a lot more heroes now. Most of the heroes are at least competitively useful to one degree or another. They can be used in different kinds of compositions. And the game's pretty healthy because of that.
Yeah, I have to completely agree with what Don said. One thing that's not really focused on the heroes, but in general, that I'd like to see fixed in the future. This is the second tournament that China has not been able to come to properly represented. That was a little bit disappointing, just because it was still really wonderful to watch, and it was still a good example of what their meta brings to the rest of the regions. However, it would be very nice to have the team that comes in first and qualifies actually go to the competition that they qualify in. Yeah. So, especially when it comes to a Blizzard sanctioned tournament, I hope that there's a little bit more preparation on either the team side or Blizzard side, or whomever has to kind of fix that problem to step up and fix that. Other than that, I think, yeah, Don pretty much nailed it with everything he said. Covered all the bases. Of course.
I think if we keep having all these tournaments in China, like, that may end up like accidentally fixing itself, yeah. Because we'll have all the American and European teams be invited to China, and we just won't have visa issues with the Chinese teams.
And then you know my favoritism towards the Taiwanese teams. They have a sacred place in my heart now. But I wish we saw more of them, because apparently in the practice matches before the group stages actually began, they did a really good job. And unfortunately, they were not in the tournament for very long once the group stages started. So I'm hoping that they show up a little bit more next time we see them, just because they play so strangely too. And I mean, yeah, Cloud9, okay, we get it, murky, that's strange. But I really want to see some of these foreign Asian teams play and be there longer than a match or two.
I can see that.
I think that's my biggest. But otherwise, I think BlizzCon was wonderful. And I think everything looked pretty even. It showed how many heroes can be viable if you have the right composition and the right map. I'm happy.
Right.
Well, let me ask you all this. I mean, what heroes really stood out to you at BlizzCon in terms of how they were used and how successful they were? And then conversely, which heroes seemed like they were maybe not as successful as they would have been, didn't seem to have the impact that we otherwise would have expected?
Well, Tyrael. I think that's the shining example that everybody, even if you just tuned in for a match or two, would have noticed. Before BlizzCon, for the most part, it was just Southeast Asia and like the China sort of meta going, okay, we pick Tyrael or we ban him. I think once practice started, all of the teams were like, hold on, this is a champion that we need to watch, and now he's a big deal. So that would be my pick.
I think I was really surprised to see some of the newer healers come out. We've kind of seen with the latest 2 additions, Karazim and Medic, to the healer pool. We've seen a lot of like different healers emerge as they come through. So for instance, in the past, like it used to be Uther Rhaegar were at the top of everything. And then everybody else kind of fell in some place below them. And sometimes if you couldn't get any other support possible, you would pick Lili.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been really happy to see the emergence of Monk in competitive play, because he's just such a fun hero. He's got so much mobility. He can make a lot of really, really cool plays, and it's just nice seeing him show up because of all that he can do in these fights, the amount of healing he puts out, and it's just a fun hero to watch overall.
Definitely agree.
What do you think about the supports?
I can't really say much about the competitive scene because I don't really watch it much. But I mean,
Fair enough.
I like Uther and Rhaegar, so that says a lot. But I can't really grasp Monk as a support or Tyrande, even with the buffs and everything. Like I can't do it. I always get myself killed more with Monk. Medic, I think, is like probably, I guess if I would say like a third, it's like that would be behind Uther and Rhaegar for me, because it's like purely heals. Like she doesn't really do much damage except for like tossing her frisbee, and if it explodes and it does something well, then
You're getting good at curving the knockback. Yeah, it's pretty sick.
you gotta time it right. Well, it's hard still, but it's kind of weird. But I don't know, Monk. I
There
bought
was
it.
Brightwing play.
Yes.
There was actually quite a bit of Brightwing in
Yeah.
BlizzCon tournament.
I miss
Sure.
Brightwing.
Sure, you used to play Brightwing. Why don't
Yeah.
you play Brightwing anymore? She's back.
I haven't
With
played
another
her in-
block rock and beat.
Yeah.
Hero used to be like our savior on Brightwing. Back in the day, she'd be like, hold on, I'll be right back. And like 1 second later, she'd be back at full health and mid. I'm like, what the heck?
Well, that's what kept the Murky comp alive and well, if I recall.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Brightwing,
amazing.
When they
Well-
nerfed her, it was pretty bad, and you couldn't really teleport as much. But then, like, the teleporting is not as bad anymore. It's back to normal with like talents that are useful to pick towards the teleport. So,
Okay.
but
enough.
I don't play Brightwing much anymore. Maybe I should. I haven't played in a very, very long time. Like,
She'll
think
be
you
well
should.
worth it with the new patch.
like I feel like every time I try to use her,
That's
and
another topic.
I can't really heal until level 10 because everyone's just like getting damage and the smoothing mists and everything. Yeah.
Right.
I think one of the other supports that featured prominently at BlizzCon that I don't know if it took us by surprise, but Tassadar. I mean, Tassadar showed
yeah.
up a lot, and he was used in a lot of different ways, a lot of different builds. There was a lot of variety in terms of what team specifically had in mind for him. Although I do think, I mean, did we see many Archon picks at BlizzCon? I think it was almost all Force Wall, wasn't
not
it?
Really.
I'm
yeah,
pretty sure.
there was a lot of Force Wall. I think there might have been a few in group stage that won Archon. I think there was maybe one game in the finals that there was an Archon.
Yeah.
I
But
think there was only
far
like
and away.
1 or 2 Archon games the entire tournament. The rest of them
entire
were all
tournament?
Force Wall.
Yeah, and that was my recollection too. Now, John, you had a lot to say in chat about Tassadar usage.
Okay, so I love Tassadar. When the changes initially went through, I was thinking, oh god, this is horrible. Like they nerfed his damage again on Archon.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna be absolutely horrible. But after playing with him, like I really love the way that he can just sustain through everything and just annoy people to no end. And in fact, I almost play him kind of like a tank once I get the 13 and 16 dimensional shift talents, because he can't die, and you can just kind of walk around on the map and control a large portion of the map away from your team without fear of dying.
Yeah.
But mostly, I was just really pissed off that teams were taking static charge at level 7, because I felt like with the Archon damage nerfs, it didn't really make sense to build Tassadar towards a damagey. It didn't make sense to talent into damage. I felt like things like Kala's Embrace and the Deep Shift talents were a lot better. And we saw more of the Deep Shift at BlizzCon proper. Yeah. But during opening week, it was all static charge, and it was driving me crazy. Through some further testing, I found out that it's all right, but
when you say still... all right, what do you mean by all right? Because I just taking pen to paper and looking at the math on it, it's just so marginal in terms of a damage boost.
It's a quality of life thing. It makes clearing minions and doing damage to heroes like a little bit easier than it would otherwise be, but I don't think it's necessary by any means, or even really like a great talent pick. It's just kind of, and all the other talents in that particular tier are meh. But I guess the interesting thing about it is there is a lot of variety that teams can find different ways to use Tassadar in different ways. So I think at least that part is good.
Okay.
Let's see. Heroes that got left out entirely from the World Championship were Gazlo, Hammer, Lili, Nazeebo, Nova, Tychus, and Thrall. Any thoughts on that, Valiver?
Well, I think the most surprising was that we didn't see any Nazeebo or Thrall. Like, I kind of figured that one of those would see at least some little niche picks for some team. I mean, Nazeebo is kind of they've got Zagara, so we can't pick Zagara, let's grab Nazeebo kind of pick, and obviously has the weakness of Ravenous Spirit being interrupted and stuff, but he's still solid. Like, the Leaping Spiders, even though they were nerfed, it's still really freaking annoying, and they do some damage. And that and the Toads of Hugeness build, like, that's been emerging a bit too. That still does a lot of damage. And Thrall just eats tanks and melee assassins, so I'm a little surprised that he wasn't used at least, like, just once. But the other ones, I'm not really surprised, just because Lili's the worst support right now. Like, just all the other ones are better. I think even a solo healer or Tyrande is better than Lili at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I've been preaching the book of Thrall or the gospel of Thrall for a long time, and whenever I see him picked in a program, I'm just horribly disappointed by what I see. He just never carries. I mean, he's not necessarily the reason why his team loses, but it's just the top teams aren't picking him at all, and I'm just kind of curious about that, because we are in a very warrior heavy meta. Thrall eats those warriors. I also think that he's pretty good against various types of poke comps too, because he has the Chain Lightning build available. He's not a full 100% commit hero like Butcher. I've lost count of the number of games that I've seen, pro games and otherwise, where a team picks Butcher, they kind of go all in on building around the Butcher, and then it just fails miserably for one reason or another. Just because it's such a risky way to play. Thrall is a hero that can do a lot of the same things, but you're not necessarily making that same kind of commitment, and you can kind of use Thrall as an extra peeler, as an extra frontline character. There are just so many different things you can do with him. Plus, you got Sundering there, which is just an incredible heroic. I mean, it's one of those heroics that if used properly, can win battles by themselves. Now, we may see the usage of Thrall change quite a bit because of the scaling changes that just went into effect, and we'll touch on those later. But I would have loved to see more Thrall play. I mean, I guess I can't say I'm surprised that Thrall wasn't picked and wasn't used, but just because of what we've seen historically over the past several months in terms of him being neglected since release. But I would like to see more of it. I think there's a lot of potential there that's going unrealized.
Okay.
I have to say that the only one that really surprises me is Nazebo. You look at heroes like Gazlo, like Thrall, like Tychus. They've all had 0% participation rates in. I know the round of 8 NA. They had 0% participation, and I believe a couple of those did as well in Europe. But Nazebo had 100% participation rate for a long time.
Yeah.
So something really shifted there.
I think to
I'm
some degree
personally-
Sylvanas replaced him.
True.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That-
That's my
Sylvanas has been
guess.
picked a lot more lately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has been. Yeah, she and Zagara have been the real pushers of choice, like the real specialists of choice for the pro teams. And I guess the other thing too is that I think a lot of teams don't feel the need to pick them because they take these warriors that have huge wave clear anyway. So like a Leoric or a Johanna, or they have like Kael'thas, for example. I mean, there are just a lot of other heroes that you can take. And build a comp around such that you don't necessarily need to take an Azeba. You don't need to take a Zagar, even though they may be useful in their own ways on, particularly on some maps.
Well, Nazebo doesn't really offer any sort of CC or
Right.
utility in his main kit, right? I mean, when you look at Zagara, obviously her ult, huge. Sylvanas, same thing. They all have pretty much the same wave clear capabilities, although I'd argue Sylvanas's is possibly the best. Zagara, when it comes to camps, is always really good. So I think that's really where he falls apart, is that they can put out damage now, and they've got things like creep tumors for vision or silence from the ult that just totally negates what Nazebo has in comparison.
You also have to consider that Nazebo has no escape whatsoever. Zagara's
That
got
too.
speed on creep and can use her ult to disengage if required, and Sylvanas has Haunting Wave. So
Yeah.
Nazebo's got nothing. You have to hit your zombie wall or you're done.
And even if you do hit
that's
your
all.
zombie wall, at this point, there's so much AoE damage that another team could dish out. If they felt like it, there's blinks, there's everything. Like, it doesn't matter if you put your zombie wall up. Like, yes, early game, it makes a huge difference. But later on in the game, it doesn't compare at all.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
think that's where that comes in.
Okay.
I just kind of turning to Lily for a second.
Right.
Like I don't know if I would rely on Lily as being a solo healer, especially in a competitive game. But she is just as annoying as can be to auto attackers with their constant
yeah.
launch. And I swear to God, we're gonna see some troll water dragon builds by a pro team at some point with
I
just
see her coming.
crapping out blinds all the time, screwing up all the big auto attackers that are out there. Because I get the sense that the meta may shift a little bit more towards auto attackers. And why wouldn't you pick Lily just to annoy the crap out of them and mitigate all that extra damage? I mean,
just for fun, add
Yeah.
Johanna and Muradin in that composition, and it's like you can't auto attack.
yeah,
You
yeah,
just
that's
don't
exactly
move.
right.
That would be so annoying. Oh,
Don's
and
like,
Artanis.
yeah, that would work. Don't you guys
Yeah.
dare do
Well, yeah.
it, but that will work.
Right, throwing Artanis with his gigantic ultimate as well. Why
They'll
not?
just be blinded for a total of like, what is that, 10 seconds, right?
Yeah,
So-
forever basically.
All right, so I think that pretty much covers everything. BlizzCon. You guys have anything else to add?
Not when it comes to the heroes that weren't picked or the heroes that were picked. I think that outside of that one, we call it a troll game just because we never ever want to play against it. But outside of that one murky game, like the comps made sense
Yeah.
for the most part.
Everything
Like, it
else was pretty
checked
good.
out.
I just want to say kudos to Cloud9. I mean, I've had some harsh comments for them at times over the past months, and it was really nice to see them put it all together and come out with a really solid effort. They didn't have their typical brain farts or anything like that in the games. It was just a really, really well put together effort, well played games. I think the skill their players particularly showed. K1 Pro in particular was a monster. King Caffeine, always a monster on the Warriors.
Gosh, King Caffeine is amazing.
Yeah, I mean it was impressive to watch. It was really impressive. So kudos to them.
Right. So that's pretty much it for BlizzCon. That's what we consider Would you all just give me a nod, yes or no? Do you think that was balanced at BlizzCon? Do you think we were seeing a pretty good state of the game? All right. Okay, I'm seeing all yeses.
Yeah.
All right. So enter the next week after BlizzCon. They decided they wanted to implement these scaling changes with the heroes. And they were discovered. They said that during the panels that the scaling changes were kind of discovered through the development of the new hero Cho'Gall, because they were making him as kind of like one superhero that could dish out a lot of damage and take a lot of damage at the same time, and they were having problems with snowballing. So what they decided to do was change the scaling so that less of the power was in level differences and more towards talent choices and the base power levels of all the heroes. So, for instance, they had a graph that said that there was a power increase of 40% from level 7 to 9 in the early game, whereas in the later stages of the game, that would from like 24 upward, that would be like around 4% per level. And so what they decided to do was change it to about 4% power increase per level all the way up, starting at level 1. And the goal was to make all the heroes a lot more like themselves in the early game. Assassins would feel more assassiny, tanks would feel more tanky, etc., etc. And so they implemented that this week with Cho'Gall. Do you think... How do you guys feel about these changes so far? How have you felt with playing?
I love the changes. So I mentioned earlier that Thrall is one of my favorite heroes, and I can really, really notice the changes on Thrall with the scaling. Before it was kind of he just had a really bad early game. He didn't really seem to do that much damage. He was risky to play because he had to, get close. Obviously, he's a melee assassin. He has to get close to people in order to really do his damage. And I guess, relatively speaking, compared to the damage that he put out versus his squishiness, he just wasn't that good in the early game. It really took a while for him to scale up, improve, and getting some talents as well to help him be competitive early on. Now, as things stand, he just blows people up early on. He's if he does a full rotation with his QWE and plus some auto attacks, he's gonna chunk out 50% or more of a hero's health, which is significant. I mean, he's a real roaming threat, and I've just had a lot of success playing with him recently. I mean, it's been fun. I mean, it makes a huge difference.
Right. And in the other corner, my Illidan did not get any better. In fact, I think Illidan actually got worse in the early game. I have no idea. That's a little unfortunate. But I have found that a lot of the ranged assassins, especially, have gotten a lot more powerful in comparison to some of the other heroes. Valiver, what do you think about that?
Well, I think not just it's the auto-attacking ranged assassins. I think the spellcasters got weaker. Like, I know first game I played as Kael'thas, I was against a Falstad, and like I just go up to him and I'm like, I'm just gonna eat you like pre-patch, and he just blows me up. Like, I don't it's the polar opposite now. Like, Falstad, I think especially got much better, and I know Vala got really better too. She doesn't, like, both of them have weak hit points now, so they can be blown up, but they're going to do a lot of damage to you, and as a caster, you cannot trade with them as easily anymore. I think that's the biggest difference now.
I hate auto attackers. I absolutely, I'm happy that Falstad is actually viable now. However, I don't play auto attackers, so maybe that's why I'm partially kind of salty about it. But I hate the fact that I'll walk into lane as a Zagara.
Is it the melee auto attackers or the ranged auto attackers?
The melee auto attackers, I think ones with more utility like Thrall are definitely better. But in general, I haven't seen or felt really a huge difference. mainly because you're able to put some of that harass down before they're able to chunk you. But the auto attackers that are ranged, oh my god, they hurt. And it's like, I don't even know where the damage comes from sometimes. And like, obviously, like you do. It's an auto attack, but it just feels so unfair. And again, that's 100% saltiness on my part. I hated the first couple games that I played with the changes before they were implemented when they were still in the PBE.
Yeah.
I hated it. Like, you played with me when I think we went through that, Don, and I was just in lane like, yeah, I'm about to die again, guys. Wallstad came back. I'm dead.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, is that with the scaling changes, not only are you more vulnerable to these heavy hitting auto attackers, but the death timers have been changed such that it's more punishing when you die as well. I mean, it's far more significant strategically to die, I think, now than it was pre-patch. Both in terms of securing objectives and also in terms of being able to maintain a soaking presence and keep up in the experience race. Now, don't get me wrong, I think this is all good. There's nothing worse than like those protracted 2-minute fights over tributes on Cursed Hollow, for example, which is drive me insane.
Hey, they're fun.
No, they're not fun.
Look at my healing
It's just
number.
it's so disheartening when you like kill like 3 people, like you kind of like kill like the 4th person, and you're like, okay, we got this. We have all 5 people up,
they're all
Right.
and then like the first 3 people that you killed show up at full health, and you're all dead.
Yeah,
like
it's just stupid. So
just annoying.
I'm glad that's over and done with. But it certainly does have an effect though on other facets of the game, and I also think that because of the scaling changes and because of the death timer changes, we're going to see a lot more impact from rotation-based comps. The types of compositions that have roamers in there, the Muradins, the Tyrandas, the Zaratools. The heroes that are not necessarily looking to maintain a lane presence in lane and soak, but are looking to roam the map and pick people off. And I think it's going to be particularly punishing. Maybe not so much in like pro play, where the pro players are expecting these types of things. They play carefully. They have good map awareness. But I think for the average player in quick match and hero league, they're really going to be punished if they're not careful, and it could be frustrating for people. I could see that.
I think we're definitely going to see a trend towards people learning to be a bit safer. Obviously, that's something that you have to learn over time. So people who are brand new to the game or people who are fairly new to the game may still have trouble with that.
It's like busting at the seams right now.
Yes, Shiro? Yes?
Learn not to die as often.
No, you do great. But I think people will generally start to play safer. Like if you look at a game like League of Legends or Dota, people tend to play a lot safer in general. They tend to stay a lot further back compared to the state of the game in Heroes so far, where like levels 1 through 10, you'll have teammates that'll just do whatever. They'll dive towers, they'll do whatever because they're fearless. Even if they die, they come back in 3 seconds. It's not a big deal.
You don't even miss a wave of XP.
You just brought something up too that I think is really important. When it comes to the scaling, towers feel a lot less effective early game now. That's something I've noticed. I don't know if you've noticed the same. But people just walk up under tower, take a couple shots. Hell, I do it. And
intentionally or not?
Way sassier than I meant to. But you can just go under tower, take a couple shots, and it's like no big deal. Like I just took those. There's some ammo gone. Oh darn. Whereas before it actually felt safe. So when you make these comparisons a little bit, that's something that I take into consideration, and I don't like that. And I don't know if that means that towers just need to have a little bit more punch closer to the start of the game. I think they're still good when you get closer to the late game, but early on they just don't really do much except cause them to not go through your wall and get you at the fountain. Like they feel like another wall with a little bit of damage added.
So
and
something,
that's disappointing.
Something a little bit related to that is they took Haunted Mines out. Haunted Mines would have been the one that most was affected by towers feeling weaker, because those games would have been even more nuts. Like
I'm so happy. You don't even know.
Yeah, I'm
It's
not gonna
like,
post that
Haunted
map.
Night.
like dance party right now.
Like percentage
Fuck that map.
loss, but I loved Haunted Mines.
Well, the problem with Haunted Mines is just people don't know how to play that map, and it just drives me insane. We're talking about fundamental things that people do wrong all the time, and it doesn't matter whether you're at rank 30 or at rank 1. I mean, you're still going to see a lot of people just misplaying that map, staying in the mines too long, not grouping properly, not splitting up, not pushing properly with the golem, or defending the golem, as the case may be. So good riddance to that map.
Yeah, I agree. It always felt like a free for all every time I played on that.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
which team goes for knights and gets wiped first?
I love that part. That's my favorite. I'm always like, guys, we gotta go get knights.
No, we don't. We really don't.
Dude, it's important.
No, we have to stand on the point. If they get the knights, they win the game.
Who cares about the boss? If they get the knights will protect the boss. It doesn't matter. Get him.
How do healers feel to you, Shiro, with the new skin changes?
To be honest, since I haven't played like a very long period until like the Cho'Gall thing came in, so it's like I sort of don't feel too different because I played like Uther, Medic, or Rhaegar. I guess if I would have to play like Tyrande or Brightwing or the other supports to feel anything, but at the moment I just don't. I honestly don't feel any different. Like anything changes most of the time, except it's like a nerf for like cleanse, for instance. Like I don't feel any different.
I think the supports feel about the same. I played a fair amount of Monk since the patch came out, and I think he feels about the same to me. I don't really notice any difference in terms of how he plays. And just my observations from I played Uther too. Don't really notice any real difference with him.
I have a quick question. Did the Uther nerfs actually go in yet?
Yeah. Divine
Okay.
Shield.
Has
a longer cooldown, which is a good thing. I mean, that thing's up too often. It's a very powerful ability, and Uther's been at the top of the support heap for a while now, and I think it's good that he's being taken down a little bit just to bring him more in line with some of the other healers. Now that said, I mean, you look at BlizzCon, for example, he didn't have great win rate there. I mean, he was losing a lot of games.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know if it's necessarily on him. I don't think it's a reflection on him, but I tend to think that he's probably in a better place overall than people think. I don't think he's too far out of bounds and out of line with the other healers, especially someone like Monk, for example.
I think he's still a solid choice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's still solid.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, very solid.
He's still one of the best supports, but he's no longer first pick material is the main thing. Because before he was just the best, period, and he was first pick material. Now he's like maybe the best for most compositions support wise. Now you don't want to waste your first pick and lose like Jaina or Muradin to get him.
But you'll still, in most tournaments, you'll still see him either if he's not first pick, then he's first ban by one of the teams.
Right.
It's very rare that he makes it through the first round.
I think from what I heard, Tyrande Shadowstalk actually scales really well with the new changes.
I think Tyrande probably got
Medic.
the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I guess I gotta try that.
Said would argue, but as far as healers
Well,
go, yes.
yeah, for supports.
But yeah, Tyrande, like solo healer Tyrande in Fragbite Masters was 100% a thing. It didn't look risky at all. It didn't look like the team just didn't have enough heals. It looked perfectly solid. So I think Tyrande's now officially a solo healer.
And not only that, but she has auto attacks that can hurt.
Well, well, it's not really nice because she goes along with that ganking style that Daunt was talking about.
Yeah.
She can kind of travel around with a group of people and help with all those chain stuns to get kills in the early game and kind of get ahead then.
So how would you compare Shadowstalk Tyrande, as a solo support to say Seven-Sided Strike Monk as a solo support?
Those seem like two completely disparate things.
Well, all right. So in terms of effectiveness, in terms of keeping their teammates up effectively, or proactively killing enemy team members, such that the healing kind of becomes a moot point.
I think the comparison there is Monk has a base heal that heals everybody, while Tyrande relies on that Shadowstalk healing. She cannot keep a team up without Shadowstalk. Monk can.
Right. Oh, I mean, you could like argue that they're just trading off power, like areas of power. So like Tyrande at base does a lot of damage and helps the team get kills, and Monk by default has a lot of heals. And then once they get their ultimates, they either get more healing or more damage.
Does solo heal Shadowstalk Tyrannus scale up well into the late game, though, in your opinion?
I think it scales pretty well, yeah.
It seems like it does, for sure.
Okay. Because I would think that it'd be more of a, you use that to get an early game advantage and then hopefully close out the game before the other team's composition kicks in.
It feels like it a little bit, I'll be honest. I don't know if any of you watched Enter the Storm at all, but
I didn't get a chance,
there was a lot of solo heal Tyrande, especially later in the tournament. And there was definitely there's definitely that missing piece, and I don't know if that was just the teams falling apart because they were behind, or if there was a certain amount of blame that can be placed on that. But the teams that had Tyrande and fell behind typically had a harder time catching up if they caught up at all.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, like, her ace in the hole is her ult and her stun. And if she doesn't hit one of those, or if she pops something too early, if she doesn't pop it soon enough, it's done. It's curtains. Whereas, like Valiver pointed out, Karazim can just heal.
There is actually, I have a really good example of that. The last game of Fragbite Masters, Team Liquid versus Fnatic. Fnatic went up and sniped to keep, and then they kind of got sandwiched in between Liquid, and so they just tried to hide in a bush and wait for an ambush, and Tyrande popped Shadowstalk early, and they didn't actually start the fight for another 5 or 6 seconds. So by the time they started the fight, Shadowstalk was down, and they just got completely obliterated. I think that's an excellent example of timing Shadowstalk absolutely perfectly, so you're not wasting it, because that heal is really important.
Yeah.
And I mean, Karazim's ult, in the same way, you have to time it properly, or it's useless. If you wait and have too many heroes, in it, then it does kind of negligible damage. But if you pop it when there's still just one, then they're done.
Right.
So that's, I think, a good comparison too. Just, they are very reliant on their kits individually. They're just flipped. So where Karazim does the healing base and then his ult can do the damage, Tyrande has to rely on her ult for the healing. But the amount of damage she can put out in general kind of makes it negligible as long as some of that healing is effective. Personally, I would still, obviously it depends on the composition of the map. Personally, I would still pick Monk over Tyrande if I'm speaking objectively. But at the same time, I know that I'm not very good at Monk, so I probably would. So take that with a grain of salt.
That sounds like the word you're looking
games.
for is subjectively.
Subjectively, that's the one. Thank you. Yeah, subjectively. That's what I would pick. Objectively, not so much. But
Right.
yeah, that's what I see anyway.
Here, are you looking forward to playing more Medic?
I mean, I like playing Medic,
Yeah.
but
You should do it. I hear she's good. although we still have yet to see like the medevac actually work in pro games.
Oh god, so many failed medevacs.
during the opening week, is that what it's called? Before BlizzCon, and the Medic play thing, going in the base and kind of just walking around and then just
Yeah, Valiver and I have grounded John from flying any more medevacs.
I admit playing medic and flying around in medevac is so much fun because like you just believe that you can make the plays, but like it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah, John flies the medevac like a kamikaze pilot.
I mean, you just assume maybe sometimes it'll work, it works really well if you're ahead. That's what I found
There's been
out.
a few games. Was it John, was it with you or was it with Daunt where I think it was on Haunted Mines we had a medic that was like, you know what? Let's just go to their
Oh
core.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was awesome.
And
That
we
was
did,
awesome.
and we won. And it was like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you're, I
Done.
feel like when you're ahead, medevac is really amazing.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, because you can shave like 20 seconds off of seizing objectives with it, which is really important. I mean, timing is everything in the late game. Being able to move from point A to point B to make sure that you can timely kill things. I mean, how many teams have thrown in the boss pit just because they didn't have an extra like 5 seconds that they needed? I mean, medevac gives you that time, so that when you're ahead, you can move along easily and get to where you need to be to really seize upon your advantages.
I think that the medics who choose medevac severely underuse it. I think that it is so often not on cooldown when you like it doesn't have a very long cooldown. I don't remember quite off the top of my head
I
what the
believe it's
cooldown
30
is.
seconds.
Yeah, it's
isn't
not
it?
very
Or
long.
30.
So
Wow,
even
that's
if you
pretty
just
short.
use it to go from base after a bunch of people spawn to a camp, like
It's a 50
done, like you
second.
said.
Yeah,
It saves
even
like
if you're
10
going
seconds.
from like you just respawn and you need to get to your team, just medevac, like why not?
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
don't. I don't understand that. It's severely underutilized, and I don't think that makes a huge difference necessarily in her viability, but it definitely doesn't help.
Well, hopefully the scaling changes will help. What do you guys think about tanks and breezers? Scaling changes?
They feel about the same. The one warrior that I play a lot, who I don't know, maybe he feels weaker to me. Maybe I'm imagining things just because I'm playing Thrall more, and Thrall just seems so much better comparatively. is Artanis. I'm just disappointed with where Artanis is right now. He's way too much of a late game hero. I don't think it's a scaling issue with him in terms of having not have enough. In terms of not putting out enough damage or not having the stats. I think really Artanis' problems are linked to his talents and his kit. And some changes have to be made there in order to bring him in line. Such that he doesn't have this ridiculously skewed power curve where he's outright bad for the first 13 levels of the game.
I think he's gotten at least a little bit better for the first 13 levels, but definitely not like, oh wow, this is a great hero.
Yeah, he's definitely not competitive. He at least for the first 13 levels, he can't. He certainly is not a solo tank. Just don't do that to him. Don't put him in that situation. He doesn't do that much damage early on either, because most of his damage is linked to his Twin Blades ability, his W, and that doesn't really hurt until he gets Triple Strike at 13. Purifier Beam helps with the damage at 10 if you take that. But otherwise, he just doesn't hit that hard, and he's very situational. And worst of all, he just can't stick to people until he gets Zealot Charge at 16. That's really the big problem.
He doesn't have the control that other warriors offer as well.
Yeah.
I love
definitely.
him in gang squads. I'll be honest with you. I really, really like his ability to keep, like,
Would you rather have a Murden with you? Like, come
Yes.
on.
Yes, you would.
Yep.
yes, but at the same, like, it depends on the new map. Honestly, I'd prefer Artanis.
You can pull some really sweet plays with Artanis by using Phase Prism and using
That's
Blade Dash. I mean, there are some really, really cool things that you can do, and you can make it look kind of sweet and easy, but it's not. I mean, Phase Prism, for as strong as an ability as it is, when it hits, it's still hard to hit. And I play a lot of Artanis, and I don't hit it all the time. But when I do, yeah, that's a game-changing moment, because once you mess up the enemy formation like that, or pull someone back out of position, just overextend them a little bit. I mean, that can really set your team up nicely. But that aside, if we're talking about just kind of pure stats in terms of what he's contributing to team fights overall and the game overall, he's just not good in a team fight capacity for a long time in the game, which makes it really, really tough.
Especially on a high level, I think that I think in quick match and in general public play, the fact that he's not as good early game definitely doesn't really make as big a difference because then you just wreck people.
Yeah.
But when it becomes higher tier or professional play, I definitely agree. And I've heard a lot of complaints about his talents, that something's got to change. Either they need to switch different talent tiers up so that you can get access to some of those really good level 13 and higher abilities early, or talents early rather, or they have to buff damage or make prison easier to hit. Like,
yeah,
they have to do something.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that people forget is he's a very, very risky hero to play. I mean, I get in some ways he's riskier than Illidan. I mean, he has to be in the fight. I mean, it's kind of all or nothing with Artanis. He has no escape. Once he's in there, and he's committed. And especially in the early game when he doesn't have all of his talents to keep refreshing his shield properly and timely for that matter, he's very vulnerable, very easy to blow up. And it's all, it just kind of compounds that issue with the fact that he's not able to stick to people and really crank out the damage.
Right. Other tanks, bruisers, I don't really play a ton of tanks. The ones that I play in particular are Arthas and Leoric.
Yeah.
And they both feel more or less the same to me. I don't feel like any huge differences on them, honestly.
I would agree with that. I've played Johanna and Buridan and Leoric, and they all seem about the same. I think one who is not the same is Chen. Chen is a lot stronger.
Oh my god,
yeah. Chen does damage now.
Yeah,
it's terrifying.
It's
not supposed to happen.
He does damage, and all these bastard Chens rolling around in their barrels, like zoning people halfway across the map. It's just ridiculous. I don't know if I would pick Chen as a solo tank at all, but definitely like a 2-warrior composition. He is really, really good at peeling people. He's a pain in the ass.
Just a gigantic damage sponge.
Wow. He is a gigantic damage sponge, and he does a pretty good amount of damage himself. I mean, it's not trivial, what he puts out.
Hmm.
I am a Chen hater in that I've never loved him ever.
He's a dumb hero. You should love him.
I never leveled him up. I never did. He was like one of the only ones that I didn't have anywhere close to like level 5, which is ridiculous because I just vehemently hated playing him. And then I did. And at first I was like the first probably 5 levels or so, I kept dying and I was laughing because I'm like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
And then I did it. And then I didn't die. And I started hitting people. And it was like, what just happened? Like, where did all of this come from? That should not be there. And
into a fighting panda.
Oh my gosh, it's unreal. I could not believe it when I went from feeling like Chen was dumb and I could do nothing and like I could sit and lane and soak and that was it, to I'm just gonna jump on them. Oh, there's a tower? Drat. I don't need to worry about it. It's an I don't even, there are so many words that start with that could go with the situation. But I'm interested to see if he gets picked up and played more in pro, but yeah. I really hope we don't see him because I still don't like him even though he's good.
I think the other dark horse of the tanks is Diablo. I personally think Diablo sucks. I think he's the worst hero in the entire fucking game. I hate Diablo so much.
I don't think I think if anything, the changes to scaling have been detrimental to him. If you look at all tanks, just because, like, some of them can benefit a little bit from the changes they got. Diablo still doesn't do much. He still doesn't feel like it does much, and there's nothing else really I can say.
If he's picking people off repeatedly, that's good. I mean, he's still one of the premier ganking warriors. If people are going to play him that way, and I mean, I've seen him have huge impacts on games just in Hero League, for example. Solo queuing rank 1 and everything. But I think in pro play, where teams and players are more careful, where they're less vulnerable to that kind of style, at least the kind of style that Diablo excels at. He's just kind of a big fat bullet sponge cow for someone like Raynor or Val. I mean, he's just going to sit there and eat bullets and not really have that much of an impact otherwise.
Well, we did see a lot more Tyrande recently. We're going to go back to the alpha with some Diablo and Tyrande ganks.
Yeah.
That might happen.
Yeah,
That's kinda cool.
I've seen a lot of that. I've seen a lot more of that showing up just in Hero League.
The other warrior though, Sonya, she does damage now. Like she did damage
my God.
before, and she does so much now.
Well, they fixed that bug where now she does it.
Yeah. You know, we don't think Sonya was doing enough damage, so we're gonna fix her bug.
I mean, that's 2
Make sure
patches
follow
in a
through
row
works.
now, where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, we found this bug. Sonya actually should be doing more, and it's like, I think that's gonna happen again next patch too. They're gonna
Why
make
do
it
you
3 in
hate
a row.
us?
Yeah, I'm ready for her to get hit with the nerf bat a little bit, just to tone her down. And it's, I mean, her ultimate is just the was it 40% across the board buff to all of her damage. I mean, that's huge, huge damage. I mean, who can she not solo at this point?
She can beat Cho'Gall.
I mean, is there anyone that she doesn't just crush?
She crushes Cho'Gall.
She does not.
Seriously?
Not if you play it right.
No,
I
no.
completely disagree with that as a counter.
Okay, all right, we'll talk about that more.
Oh, we will have words.
All right, so I think that more or less covers all of the heroes, all of them. The scaling changes, obviously not, but
Speaking
let's
of
talk
all
about
heroes.
some of the newest heroes that are coming up real quick. So at BlizzCon, they said they wanted to introduce a lot more auto-attacking heroes, which ironically seem to fit in with this the meta that's kind of introduced by these scaling changes. So Lunara and Greymane are going to be coming out. Do you guys think they'll fit pretty well?
Greymane is going to be. I was going to say a bit of a lone wolf, and then I realized that was a terrible joke. It's out there anyway.
Funnypuns.com.
He's gonna be strange. From what I've heard, early testing, his kit still doesn't really feel very coherent. Like, he's an interesting hero, but he doesn't really.
Well, right now it's like
He's
all
hybrid
damage.
without really feeling like he has to be hybrid.
Yeah.
Lunara, I'm very excited for. I think that her movement looks ridiculous, but it also gives you a lot of possibilities for how to avoid things like lunar flare. And she actually has abilities that interest me for an auto attacker, so I'm excited to see her.
Right.
Cho'Gall is just when we start going on Cho'Gall, you know, I'll be talking, so I'll just stop.
All right, we'll save Cho'Gall for right after this, okay? And then I'll just let you
Yeah.
go. I'll give you the hands and just let you go.
I mean, we'll have to wait and see how these heroes turn out. I think both Lunara and Greymane are built around interesting concepts, so they could, they should be good. They should be fun in theory, but we'll just have to see what the stats look like when it's all said and done when they come out. I will say that I'm glad that Blizzard is turning to the ranged assassins again, especially the auto attacking ones, because we haven't really had a new auto attacker in a long time. I mean, I'm trying to think if there's one that's been released since I started playing in alpha, and I don't
Nope.
think so. I mean, Valstad, Raynor, Vala, Tychus. I mean, they've
Nova.
He's an assassin.
No, we're not talking. No,
Right.
no. But I mean, in terms of
Just
these sustained
assassin.
damage auto attacking range assassins, we haven't had a new one in a year. or more.
Sylvanas is probably the closest to that mold.
Yeah, I mean, she'd be the closest, but she
Reskin
doesn't.
Vala, you said? Nobody's
Yeah.
ever gonna agree with me on that, but it's fine.
No.
No,
It's fine.
no. So Blizzard definitely needs to spice that up. I think that if we're looking at all the classes in general right now, I think that warriors are in a really good spot overall. There's a lot of variety, a lot of potential picks, a lot of viability across the board. I think it's kind of the same thing for supports. Supports is in a pretty good spot, whereas 6 months ago supports were brutally underrepresented, I would say.
And being
Yeah.
banned out.
Yeah, exactly.
you
They're
get-
being
yeah.
banned out, such that, like, the Troll Lily pick was
There was
fixed.
4
was
heroes.
forced. Yeah, so
Big one.
we don't have to deal with that anymore, thank goodness. So yeah, I think it's good that they're turning back to the ranged assassins and fleshing out that part of the
Right.
roster a little bit.
All right, let's talk about Cho'Gall.
Oh my god.
Shiro, why don't you go ahead and tell us your first impressions of Cho'Gall?
Well, I played actually Cho'Gall like a good few hours ago or so with Dot, and I let him take the reins of me Cho, and I was Gall. And it was just we ended up losing all 3 games, but it was interesting.
It was
Like-
all bad.
I don't know if it was us being bad or a team comp. Well, there was one game
Well,
where like
yeah. We had all right. So in fairness, we had really bad team comps. Like we were at a disadvantage team comp wise in every game.
Well, what goes badly with him, have you found?
We had a game where we had no warrior. We had
You are a warrior, you're Cho.
well, all right. Well, fine. So, no warrior other than Cho, and then we had I think was it Nova and Zeratul
Oh god.
on the team as well, and
Yeah.
and then
Invisibles are just so bad because they have no
Yeah.
lane presence.
yeah, because here's the fundamental problem with Cho'Gall is that he eats up 2 spots, and so that really limits what your team can do otherwise. This is particularly an acute problem on a map like Dragonshire, where teams have to really
oh yeah.
rotate around while also holding down 3 lanes simultaneously, and you have Cho'Gall who just handicaps you. I mean, outright handicaps you in terms of your ability to do that. And so as soon as Cho'Gall is on the team, you really have to, take your like the other players have to take their focus away from the more niche picks, the more specialized picks that aren't just, straight up kind of ship of the line type characters, the ones that are going to be in their mainstay type characters that are either doing damage, tanking, or healing. I mean, you have to, ignore and not take like a Nova or a Zeratul. You have to have that consistent presence in the team
Right.
fights and in the laning phase.
Oh my. I just
What do you think, Christine?
I completely disagree with you on him in Dragonshire.
Disagree
Just
with it?
go, just
Oh
go.
yes, I strongly disagree. Actually, I think he's amazing on Dragonshire.
No, he's not. He's terrible. But go ahead.
No, so this is the angle I'm coming from. The 2 map types that he excels at most are 2-lane maps, so things like
Yes.
Haunted Mines, and smaller maps or maps with major objectives. The reason I say that is because while 2-lane things should be relatively easy to understand, it's easier to rotate and it's easy to cover 2 lanes instead of 3. So he can kind of do whatever he wants and dish out a ton of damage, and it works really well. When it comes to Dragonshire, he is a mini boss. You cannot even send 2 people up, depending on the compositions, obviously, and you never really want to pick him first or second. Like, you want him to be a last pick, if we're talking competitively anyway. When it comes to Dragonshire, he is so good at keeping those points. So you either have to send your entire team up to kill him to get that point if you want to try for the shrine, in which case the other shrine is not going to be yours, or you need to let him have that point, and then he'll just siege for days.
I think there are all sorts of
So-
2 hero combinations that'll kill Cho'Gall outright.
Like Sonya
felt-
plus anyone else?
yeah.
we were getting cut up. Like I felt like when
Yeah.
it was just 2 people and just us, I felt like they were winning and we were losing. And then
Yeah,
we
no,
died.
I
If
think
it's
that
another
there are-
Cho'Gall, it might be interesting. And I mean, again, obviously there's going to be some issues with, depending on what the compositions are. I'm thinking of it from a sort of professional drafted standpoint. In Quick Match, it's a little bit different. In Hero League, it can be a little bit different, but it's still a draft, so you
I
still
know
have that opportunity.
Cho'Gall mirrors are so much fun. There's just shit exploding
that time when we both
everywhere.
died at the same time was ridiculous.
Yes, we both died at the
Both
same
blobs
time.
that died at the exact same time because we
That
got
was
hit by each other's
beautiful.
blobs. It was ridiculous. But anyway, that's he is a mini boss, and you need to deal with him, or he's just going to siege and sit on points all day, and there is nothing you can do about
I
it.
think there are all sorts of 2 hero combinations that'll wreck Cho'Gall. I don't think he's that tough to kill. I think he's really easy to
If
kill.
you throw like a Brightwing and something else that does a lot of damage at him, sure. Like, obviously, you throw counters at someone, they're going to die. That's just
you could
how
Sonya
it
and a
works.
healer, a Thrall and a healer. You could throw like a warrior.
But
and
how
a
much time do
range
they have
damage
to
dealer.
waste? Whereas you've got the rest of your team doing whatever the heck they want.
Well, yeah, but that's still a 2-on-2 situation.
But it evens out, though, right?
Okay,
At the
so
end of the day, it does even out.
But
So-
then if Cho'Gath dies, then that's
Yeah,
two
but he
people.
died, so it doesn't even out.
You're
though.
assuming you're gonna lose though. Like
So-
this is the balance. Like this makes it difficult for the other team to decide what they want to do and who they want to send. And if they're sending their healer and one of their top damage dealers out, who's gonna deal with your damage dealers?
I'm
like-
gonna be honest. I feel like Cho'Gall feels like a pre-patched Leoric. Like when Leoric was first released, I think that feels the same as Cho'Gall. But the difference was he was one hero. I don't know. That's just how I feel. Like he forces at least two people to be in the lane, but the fact that he's two people forcing two people to be in lane is not as good as
agree.
Leoric being one person.
Yeah, and I think that's the fundamental problem is that, he's two heroes in one, but I don't think he's as good as two heroes most of the time.
It takes a
Most of
lot
the
of
time.
coordination. I think there's definitely a place for him in the higher echelons for professional play because they'll be a lot better than just two random people playing for fun.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a lot of coordination. It's going to be map and composition dependent. And if any counters are on the other team, then yeah, it's going to suck. And you probably shouldn't pick him. But I definitely think there's a spot for him because of the amount of damage and tank ability that he possesses. Like, good luck trying to get him off of a point because you have to put so much time into it.
I think the one thing that he does excel at is he's a great siege platform. Like you can't just leave him to his own devices in lane because he will wreck that lane with all of his ranged abilities. But as long as people are mindful of that, I think it's pretty easy to out rotate him. And get that 2-on-2 versus Cho'Gall or even a 3-on-2 pretty easily to where he just can't compete with that.
Right. Well, okay, let's take a step back. Okay, I feel like we're already in the realm of what is Cho'Gall gonna be in competitive? Like, how is this gonna work? Let's just take a step back. Is he fun? Is the design of the hero good? Is he fun to play?
I think that his implementation is the best that Blizzard's done in terms of community, in terms of the actual hero. Like, you want to play with friends, and if you pick the person that you argue with most, except for certain people, and play with them, it's wonderful. Because the arguments are just hilarious.
Right.
Poor Phantom.
Gosh.
I was talking about my other main friend, but okay.
So what do you think, Shiro?
I think, I did play Cho, and that's pretty fun because you get to control the character, obviously. But playing Gall, I feel like it's underwhelming because you just have your shadow thing spell and then your blobs, and then you only detonate the bomb when Cho throws his bomb.
You're a
bowling
glorified
ball.
symbiote.
Yeah, but wait, but you
permanent
also have
habitat.
this. You also have the speed boost, which 90% of Galls completely forget that they have.
Really?
We started getting good at using
Yeah,
it.
you can press Z for a temporary speed boost.
I did not know that.
Exactly.
Part
See?
of why I like him so much, because Cho's got that mobility too, as long as Gall's paying attention.
I was actually talking to some casters. I was talking to some casters earlier today about
God.
Cho'Gall, and
Oh, man.
one of them said that he loves how the speed boost plus the Will of Gall at level 20 allows Gall to take care of Cho and get him out of sticky situations.
Yeah.
And so it makes him feel like he actually has something to do, and he has a way to actually keep the two of them alive.
I wasn't going to throw you under the bus, Shiro. You just
I did not know about this. So the talents, the first talent, the second talent is make when you cast the bolt, I think your time for the hurry up cooldown goes down. I was why do I want to cool down the mount if Cho is doing the mount? I thought it was a mount thing, so I had no clue what it was.
Yeah, it's called a speed boost.
To be fair, I don't think it's actually advertised all that well.
Most people do not. Most people will not use it unless you point it out. We finally got good at using it because it's as
it's hard to remember.
Use this and speed us up, and they'll just be I'll mount up right now. It's
If you tell, would you tell me?
It's on his UI.
But you have to click,
Invisibility.
you have to hover. You have to hover to see it and read it.
That's
Oh,
the biggest
man.
first Heroes problem ever. I had to hover over the button to figure out what it meant.
Z,
So here's the. All right, so just going back to like Shogal and his viability and whether he's fun is put together. Yeah, I mean I agree that fundamentally he should be a fun hero for a lot of people just because he provides a whole new mechanic that a lot of people are gonna like and that they get to play the same hero with somebody else. I think that he's very weak though right now in terms of what he does and what he brings to the table, especially when. Accounting for all the limitations he has. I mean, the fact that he's one hero eating up 2 spots is a problem on a lot of maps, and it's going to particularly be a problem on the new map, Towers of Doom. I mean, it's going to be a huge problem there because that map is all about rotations and being all over the place all at once.
Yeah, so we've played a little bit of that in the PTR. Valiver, what are your thoughts on Towers of Doom?
Well, when I first heard it, like, I was actually really excited for it. Like, it sounded fun, but frankly, I'm not a fan of it. Like, I've played it only a few times, but all those times it didn't feel like I was accomplishing anything as I was playing the map. Like, it just felt like, oh, I clicked the altar. There, I mean, at least with like a curse, like you can see that going up, and then you get something physical, the curse. After you get 3 tributes that you can do something with. This is just firing some, I don't know what, some spirit voodoo magic at the other.
It fires skulls.
Whatever. Spirit voodoo magic, that's now what it's called.
Yeah.
Over at the other core, and it doesn't really feel like you're doing it. I don't know.
It is
how to,
unsatisfying.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then it just kind of abruptly ends. Like there's, I don't know, I just don't like it too much.
It's funny. A lot of people who have come from other MOBAs and not stuck with heroes have done it because they don't like the fact that you don't necessarily have to go into the enemy's base in order to win on maps like Blackheart's Bay, for instance, or Sky Temple. They didn't like that mechanic. And they're like, you know what the next map is? A map where you literally can't touch the opponent's base.
Yeah,
So
I'm
that
sure
gave me a bit
I've
of a
heard of
chuckle.
so many people who love Blackheart's Bay. That's sarcasm.
Yeah, it's a weird balance, but anyway, this time their base is totally off limits. If you don't know anything about it, there's really there's not much out there on it. So essentially, it's still a 3-lane map. There's still a boss. This time it's a headless horseman. He does an unreal amount of damage.
Yeah, it's
like,
ridiculous.
Don't even
Like,
think that you can do it with one person.
No, you're
It's
not
it's
solo.
not anywhere close
You're
to a normal boss.
No, it's
so
not.
much stronger.
And especially with what we were talking about before, with the changes on timers for death early on, like, don't try to get an early boss.
Like, you honestly can't do it until like I feel like level 15 plus, and the other team was completely wiped. If you try anything other than that, like it's so scary,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
unbelievable.
And then the other interesting things about it, the creep camps are actually explosive minions. So once they get close to towers, they run at them and explode. They will auto attack range minions if they're not near a tower, but once they get to a building, they run and go boom.
Here's one thing that is readily apparent to me about this map is that it is probably the most tactically complicated map in the game right now, or at least, well, it's not in the game right now, but that will be in the game. I mean, as just an example, there are a lot of players that complain all the time about Dragonshire and how hard it is and how much they hate that map because they don't know how to rotate, they don't know how to pay attention to the map and get to where they need to be. Well, this map is like that, but on steroids. I mean, there are so many different things to do, so many different competing objectives. It's really not about laning at all. I mean, there's minimal laning. You're not pushing force. You're not pushing keeps. You're trying to seize these altars. There's all sorts of fights going on, in kind of the jungle area. Plus, there's the camping of that sewer tunnel thing or whatever it is that goes to the middle of the map.
Right.
This is going to be a very, very hard map, and I think a lot of players are going to be very frustrated with it. And I think there's going to be a lot of errors that people are going to be seeing from their teammates and from the other team that just drive them crazy.
Yeah. definitely.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a difficult map for people to get used to, but we won't really know how it's going to look because they still haven't released it yet. There could still be plenty of changes coming to it, so we'll see when it gets here. You guys have anything else to add on the newest state of the game?
As in heroes or everything in general?
Just the state of the game in terms of balance and things like that with the scaling changes. Think we're in a good spot now? Do you think
but buff Artanis, damn it.
Do you think that maybe we perhaps kind of left the nest egg of like the nice cozy spot that we were at BlizzCon? Or do you think we're still in a good spot?
I mildly fret over the idea that the next heroes that are coming out are auto attackers, and this conveniently buffed auto attackers. No conspiracy theory here. 100% no conspiracy theory. But I worry that especially ranged auto attackers are going to get a little bit out of control. And I mean, it's always nice to have a change in the meta, but I don't want early game to feel miserable for everybody else either. So I'm hoping that it doesn't become a pub stomp thing for regular players. But as far as the pro scene is concerned, I don't think it'll shake it up too much.
Okay.
I'm pretty happy with where the game's at right now. I think it's an improvement. I think that a lot of heroes that were kind of on the fringes are a lot more viable and ready to go into the mainstream even. Butcher, Thrall, Chen. I mean, I think there are a lot of heroes that are going to cycle back into the into regular rotation.
I mean, and that's an interesting point, though, is like we're only talking about heroes that got better and are coming back. No heroes disappearing. That's the other part of that. Like, there's really not anybody that was crushed, like which usually happens.
Well, Illidan, but that's okay.
Well,
And I mean, in all
it's
fairness,
still good. I mean,
I hate all those Illidan players anyway.
It's fine. All right. Well, I think that pretty much sums up everything we've talked about. Basically, we are going to be coming back on this show every other week from here on out, starting with next Saturday. And after this one, we're going to be doing everything live. I don't know exactly what our timing is going to be. Fortnightly is the word. I don't know the exact timing that we're going to do it, but it will be in our announcement. So look forward to that. If you want to learn more about our articles, keep up with our news coverage and things like that, you can follow us on Twitter at Liquid Heroes. And we are dedicated to bringing you the highest quality Heroes content. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. Thanks, guys, for being on Nexus Nights. And we'll see you guys later.
All right, see you guys.
Yeah.
Adios.